The inner semen reservoir is one of the most misunderstood yet profoundly powerful concepts for men seeking to elevate their lives. At its core, semen retention is not about repression, but about preservation and transmutation of the most concentrated form of life, energy, the male. Body Produces. Science confirms that semen contains a unique combination of proteins, minerals, vitamins, and hormones that require tremendous biological investment to create. To deplete this energy constantly is to weaken the body, fog the mind, and destabilize emotional strength. To conserve it, however, is to build a reservoir, a well of vitality, creativity, and focus that can be drawn upon to fuel ambition, clarity, and resilience. The idea is simple but transformative. Just as a reservoir collects and holds water for agriculture, power, and life itself, semen retention builds an inner reservoir of energy that can be tapped for personal growth, professional success, and spiritual awakening. It is not mystical. It is logical. What is saved strengthens. What is wasted weakens. The reservoir becomes a living force that powers every aspect of a man's being, giving him the edge in a world filled with distraction and depletion. One of the clearest ways to understand this principle is to compare the depleted man with the man who cultivates his reservoir. The depleted man lives in cycles of indulgence, chasing temporary satisfaction through release, entertainment, and instant gratification. His energy leaks, his focus falters, and his goals drift further away. He often feels drained, anxious, and dependent on external stimulation to find motivation. The man with an inner reservoir, by contrast, conserves his energy and learns to channel it into productivity, training, and creative pursuits. Instead of exhaustion, he experiences vitality. Instead of distraction, he finds focus. Instead of weakness, he radiates strength. The difference is visible not only in his body language and confidence, but also in the outcomes of his life. He finishes what he starts, stands firmly in his decisions, and commands respect without demanding it. Semen retention, when practiced consistently, is the foundation of this transformation. It redirects the raw biological drive into a source of unshakable presence and steady will. Like a dam that channels stored water into hydroelectric power, the reservoir channels conserved semen into usable energy for higher pursuits. To illustrate how this principle can shape success in the real world, let us consider the story of Daniel, a businessman who went from struggling with distraction and burnout to building a thriving company by tapping into the reservoir of semen retention. In his early 30s, Daniel found himself constantly drained. Although he had the skills and ideas to grow his startup, he lacked the consistency and energy to execute his vision. Late nights of indulgence, endless scrolling through entertainment, and habitual release left him exhausted by morning. He described his mind as foggy, his willpower as fragile, and his productivity as sporadic. At one point, after losing an important investor due to missed deadlines, Daniel realized he had to change. While searching for ways to rebuild focus and energy, he came across the practice of semen retention. Skeptical at first, he decided to commit to it as an experiment, promising himself 90 days of discipline. The first weeks were difficult, filled with cravings and restlessness, but he noticed subtle shifts, deeper sleep, sharper mornings, and a strange but undeniable surge of confidence. As Daniel continued, he began redirecting his energy into his business. When urges arose, instead of succumbing, he hit the gym, wrote detailed strategies, or networked with potential clients. Slowly, his reservoir filled, and he began to notice something profound. His mind felt clearer, his presence stronger, and his decision-making bolder. Investors who once overlooked him began paying attention, sensing his new aura of confidence and conviction. Employees who once doubted his leadership began following him with respect, noticing his renewed discipline and drive. Within a year of practicing semen retention, Daniel's company not only secured significant funding, but also expanded into new markets. He attributed this turnaround to the reservoir he had built within himself, saying, "It wasn't just about having more energy, it was about having control over myself. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't running on fumes, but on a deep well of power." Daniel's story demonstrates what countless men throughout history have known, that the conservation of life force, when properly harnessed, fuels success on every level. The logic behind Daniel's transformation can be explained through both biology and psychology. Biologically, semen retention allowed his body to conserve essential nutrients and hormones that support vitality. Instead of exhausting his system through constant release, his reservoir grew, supplying his body with the energy needed for focus and resilience. Psychologically, abstaining from instant gratification rewired his brain's dopamine pathways. He no longer sought cheap thrills, but instead derived satisfaction from progress, growth, and achievement. This is the essence of the reservoir, not a stagnant pool of denied desire, but a flowing well of redirected energy. The discipline required to maintain it builds mental strength, while the energy it provides fuels ambition. This combination creates a self-reinforcing cycle of growth, where the man becomes stronger, more focused, and more successful the longer he maintains his reservoir. It is no surprise that so many high achievers across history, thinkers, leaders, and spiritual masters advocated some form of semen retention. They understood that the man who guards his life force guards his destiny. Yet it is important to emphasize that semen retention is not only about business success or external achievement. The reservoir also shapes the inner world of a man, bringing balance, peace, and confidence. Men who practice retention often report feeling less anxious, less reactive, and more centered. This stability arises because their energy is no longer scattered or drained but consolidated within. Like a tree drawing nourishment from deep roots, the man with an inner reservoir grows upward with strength and stability. His relationships improve because he no longer seeks validation from others. His presence alone provides assurance. His creativity flourishes because his mind is not fogged by depletion but sharpened by vitality. His spiritual life deepens because he learns to see desire not as a curse but as a force to be transformed. The reservoir becomes not only a source of power but also a source of identity, reminding the man that he is in control of his body, his mind, and his destiny. In the end, the inner semen reservoir is the foundation of the undepleted life. Daniel's story proves that success, whether in business or in any pursuit, flows naturally when energy is conserved and redirected. Logic affirms this principle. Energy saved is energy available, and energy available is power. Men who practice semen retention are not simply denying themselves pleasure. They are choosing mastery, choosing vitality, choosing to fill their reservoir so that they may live with strength, clarity, and purpose. The reservoir is not built in a dit, it is built through consistent discipline, daily choices, and a vision of a greater self. Once filled, it transforms every part of life, from productivity to relationships to spiritual depth. The man who taps into his inner reservoir is no longer at the mercy of fleeting urges. He becomes the architect of his destiny, a leader of his own life, and an example of what is possible when one learns to conserve, channel, and embody life force. The reservoir is within every man. It waits to be filled, and when tapped, it becomes the wellspring of a new reality. Before we conclude, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to drop your location in the comments. I'd love to know where you're watching from. And if you ever have any questions, join our Telegram channel where we interact directly and help each other grow. The link is in the description. This is series of introspective and philosophical about semen retention, so don't forget to. Next video, 2 became winner, coming soon. The still point, finding calm in the modern chaos.